Brilliance Audio presents My Fair Temptress by Christina Dodd, performed by Karen Cass. Miss Caroline Ritter squeezed a handful of her damp, shabby skirt. I need to procure some method of providing sustenance for myself. Adorner Lady Bucknell, the proprietress of the Distinguished Academy of Governesses, folded her hands on her desk and gazed at the young lady seated before her. Outside, the March rains lashed at the windows, the occasional splatter of sleet a reminder that winter hadn't yet loosened its hold on London. Rather more forcefully, Miss Ritter said, In other words, I need a job. Pinning her with a direct gaze, Adorner asked, What are your accomplishments? Miss Ritter hesitated a telling moment. Adorner tried to make it easier for her. What do you do best? Flirt, she said promptly. Adorner believed her. She had seen many a young lady come through her study at the Distinguished Academy of Governesses, all of them in need of assistance, but she had never felt such a kinship as she felt now for Miss Caroline Ritter. This young lady was beautiful. Her smooth tan complexion reminded Adorner of the tale repeated about the Ritters, that 400 years ago Mr. Ritter brought home a bride from some exotic locale, and since then the women of the family had been temptresses who led all men astray. Miss Ritter certainly fit the role. She was tall, almost gangly, with long arms and slender fingers, yet she moved with a grace that pleasured the eye. Her high bosom and narrow waist would naturally rivet any man's attention, and her voice, low and warm, gave the impression of interest and kindness. She had gathered her straight brown hair into a severe chignon at the base of her neck, yet fine strands had escaped their confinement, and the auburn highlights encased her striking face like a summer sunset. Her wide chin gave the inference of defiance, and the dark lashes and brows that decorated her slumberous aquamarine eyes strengthened the impression of unusual and delicate beauty. Never had Adorner seen so exquisite a visage since the day, 30 years ago, when she had gazed into a mirror and realized that she herself was a diamond of the first water. Yet time had wrought changes on her own face, so that now Miss Caroline Ritter could accurately be described as the loveliest woman in England. Leaning back in her chair, Adorner said aloud what she had been thinking. I remember you. 3 years ago, you were all the rage. And I've heard of you. Caroline met Adorner's gaze directly. You were the most famous debutante of your time. At the tribute, Adorner allowed a small smile to cross her lips. I was. Some say you were the most famous debutante of all time. So my husband says, but I tell him that is simply flattery. It works, of course. He is very good at getting his way. Adorner allowed her mind to drift back 30 years to her debut. Do you know, I had 14 offers of marriage in my first season. That is extraordinary. Miss Ritter modestly lowered her eyes. I had 15. Ah, a rivalry. How delicious. 4 abduction attempts, 2 by the same man. Only 3 abduction attempts, but all by different men. And 53 stolen kisses. This game amused Adorner. I kept a tally. I kept a tally too, and I assure you, you're far ahead of me in that contest. Miss Ritter's mouth drooped in disappointment. My chaperone was far too watchful until she wasn't. Mine was having her own scandalous evening. Adorner chuckled warmly. She is my aunt, Jane Higginbotham, now Lady Blackburn. Perhaps you know of her? The famous sculptress, indeed I do. Her work is magnificent. My father invested in some of her works. Miss Ritter eyed the crackling fire with some longing. I imagine her dedication to her sculpting distracted from her duty to keep you untouched. Something like that. Lifting the bell at her elbow, Adorner rang, and when the maid appeared, she requested a generous tea be served. Returning to the matter at hand, Adorner said,